What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who video. Today I'm going to be ranking all of Series 5's episodes from worst to best. Series 5 is Matt Smith's first series as the Doctor and Stephen Moffat's first as showrunner, so things have changed a bit from the previous series. Remember, this is my personal opinion, but I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. Anyway, let's get started. Number 13. Victory of the Daleks. The Doctor and Amy land in London during the London Blitz. They find out that there are Daleks supposedly helping out the British, but the Doctor finds it very suspicious. Long story short, he finds out that the Daleks have a plan in motion to destroy the Earth. There are quite a few problems with this story. Firstly, the Daleks' plan to destroy the Earth is the most overused plot, in New Who especially, and like usual, their reasoning is because they are the superior beings. It just feels very samey by this point and has gotten old. The other issue that is more commonly talked about is the Paradigm Daleks. They look like a packet of Skittles and just aren't as threatening as any other Dalek design. It doesn't help that they show up for 5 minutes, bugger off to space after they've been defeated, and never have another proper appearance again. This is definitely the worst story in Series 5 and probably my least favourite Dalek story from New Who. Number 12. The Beast Below. This is Amy's first trip in the TARDIS and it's sadly a bit of an underwhelming one. It takes place on Starship UK, a ship that the United Kingdom have made in order to survive the death of the Sun and get them away from Earth. It turns out the government has strapped the city of London to the back of a star whale and is torturing it to keep it moving. The episode just feels a little lackluster and just doesn't interest me. I like that we get to know Amy more in this story, which I suppose was one of the main purposes for it, and I like when the Doctor gets angry because he has to make the difficult decision between killing the star whale and letting the people ride its corpse, or saving the star whale but killing the humans. Apart from that, however, the story has some strange ideas, the Smilers don't do much, and it just isn't particularly engaging. Number 11. Amy's Choice. This is an episode that I don't mind but still isn't one of my favourites. The Doctor, Amy and Rory find themselves flickering between two realities. One where Amy and Rory are married and Amy is pregnant, the other where the three of them are stuck on the TARDIS that is heading towards a cold star that will freeze them to death. They keep switching between the two until the Dream Lord, an apparition that created these realities, gives Amy the decision of which one she believes to be real. Inevitably, she has to choose between the Doctor and Rory. The concept for this is amazing and it's done very well, but there are just a couple of things that I don't like. Firstly, the monsters that appear in the reality on Earth are so cringy. They come across as more silly and weird than scary and threatening. I also don't know how I felt when realising both realities were fake. It made for a gripping scene when the Doctor blows up the TARDIS, but I felt like it kind of ruined some of the tension from earlier. All up, this episode is enjoyable but has some concepts I'm not keen on. Number 10. The Lodger. This episode has its strong points but also its weak points. It follows the Doctor as he tries to figure out what's going on near a man called Craig's house. He secretly sets up equipment in Craig's spare room, but is eventually found out, so they both solve the mystery together. It turns out that a spaceship has landed on Craig's roof and has disguised itself as a second floor, so they need to figure out what's going on. This is more of a comedic episode than a story-driven episode, and it does that very well. The main issue I have is the ending more than anything else. The controls for the ship grab the Doctor saying he's compatible to pilot it because he wants to leave, and he says Craig has to touch the controls himself and express his love for his, at that time, friend, Sophie, because he wants to stay here with her. This is another one of those endings where the day is saved by love, and us Doctor Who fans don't really like that. Number 9. The Vampires of Venice. This is another episode that's watchable but has its issues. We follow the Doctor, Amy and Rory trying to find out what Rosanna Calvieri is doing in Venice after they find out she's taking young girls and then they're never seen outside again. They discover that she's an aquatic vampire fish thing and she's turning girls into vampires like her. The main problem with this episode is that it borrows concepts from previous stories. Toby Whithouse wrote this, who also wrote School Reunion in Series 2. Vampires in Venice borrows the aliens in disguise as humans concept, and also the love triangle concept from that episode. Amy manages to get herself into the selection for being turned into vampires to see what's going on, which you could say is similar to the Doctor and Rose going undercover in School Reunion 2. Also, the vampire fish look a bit crap. This episode would have been good if it was not so similar to Toby's previous story. Number 8. The Hungry Earth. This is the first part of the two-part Silurian story. It reintroduced the Silurians into the new series with a redesign that a lot of people didn't like, however I don't mind. The TARDIS lands in Wales in the year 2020, and the Doctor, Amy and Rory find themselves at a mining facility where people have been going missing. It turns out that the ground beneath them is eating people and taking them underground. This is found out when Amy is swallowed by the ground beneath her feet. We eventually find out it's the Silurians that want to reclaim Earth as their own, as they were here before the humans. I hear that this story is a lot like the third Doctor story, Doctor Who and the Silurians, and people don't like it because of that. I personally haven't seen it, so I can't say much, but I do think this story is slightly lacking. It just seems like a relatively simple story and has some fairly bland side characters apart from Nazarene and Alea the Silurian. Number 7. Cold Blood. This is the second part of the two-part Silurian story, and I think it's slightly better. Most of the episode focuses on the humans and the Silurians trying to make peace with one another. Amy, Nazarene and the Silurians eventually come to an agreement, but it's short-lived after Rory and the others come down with Alea's corpse. Restek, Alea's sister, finds out about this and tries to kill the humans and the Doctor. Eventually they manage to escape back to the TARDIS before Rory is shot dead by Restek and consumed by the crack. This episode has plenty of great character moments and some good action too, but like the first part, is pretty simplistic. To be honest though, it's a nice change from most of the complicated stories in Moffat's era. The ending where Rory dies and Amy forgets about him is the best part of this episode. It's such an emotional moment and a great way to end Rory's story, until we see him again in the finale. Number 6. The Big Bang. Next we have the second and final part of the two-part finale. This episode had a lot of questions to answer from the previous one, and on the most part it answered them, just in a bit of a complicated way. It's hard for me to recap what happened in this episode, but long story short, Rory put Amy's dead body into the Pandorica, which kept her safe and brought her back to life. Rory, now an Auton, guarded the box for centuries until young Amelia Pond gets instructions from the Doctor to free older Amy. Then there's a bunch of stuff with a younger and older version of the Doctor that I can't get into without writing an entire novel. Basically, this episode has a very interesting concept, however it's far too complicated. There's just too much going on to understand any of it, but once you eventually get your head around it, it's a pretty fun one to watch. Number 5. Flesh and Stone. This is the second part of the two-part Weeping Angel story, and on the most part is good. Amy getting worse and worse from the angel in her eye is interesting to see, even though I don't completely agree with how it got there in the first place. Also, the soldiers with Amy going missing and being erased from time after investigating around the forest is a great setup for things to come later in the series with the crack. Amy moving around the angels by herself is also a gripping scene to watch, however it's spoiled by an angel actually being seen moving. The whole point of the Weeping Angels is that they move faster than anything, so seeing one basically sliding across the ground is ridiculous. The ending was also one of those endings where if the Doctor never showed up, the problem would have probably resolved itself, so that was a bit of a letdown. Altogether though, this was a pretty good final part to this two-part epic. Number 4. The Time of Angels. So now we get to the first part of the Weeping Angel two-parter. This reintroduces us to River Song, who would play a big part in Matt Smith's era as the Doctor. It also brought back the Weeping Angels after their massive success in the Series 3 episode Blink. The story for this is that a ship crashed on the planet Alphava Matraxis, and on board was a lone angel. They look at the footage of the angel and soon realise that the image of an angel can in itself become an angel. Amy ends up staring at the angel and sees it move, and it tries to get out of the screen. The Doctor and River manage to get Amy out, but it turns out the angel is now a part of Amy. I still don't know how I feel about this whole concept, but it doesn't bother me too much, and it makes for an interesting plot. This part ends with the Doctor, Amy, River and some soldiers venturing into a cave and realising that they're surrounded by corroded old angels. It ends with the Doctor shooting their source of light and giving a great short speech. This is a great start to a great all-round story. Number 3. Vincent and the Doctor. This episode probably shouldn't be this high, but I just love it so much. We see the Doctor and Amy meet Vincent van Gogh after they saw a strange creature in one of his paintings. They find out that the creature can only be seen by Vincent, but the Doctor manages to make a device that allows him to see it too. The Doctor then asks Vincent to go and paint the church so they can find the creature again. After defeating the creature, the Doctor and Amy leave, but not before taking Vincent to the art museum to show him how important he is. That scene where the tour guide talks about how Vincent was one of the greatest men that ever lived was so emotional, and the music in the background was perfect for it. The Doctor's speech after finding out that Vincent still committed suicide about good and bad things was so well written as well. It's a shame that the threat in this wasn't much of a threat at all, but it still worked well as a great character-driven story. Number 2. The Pandorica opens. Yes, we finally have the first part of the two-part finale. The Pandorica opens is full of great comedy, action and adventure. The story starts with River Song showing the Doctor a painting that Vincent van Gogh painted of the TARDIS exploding. They then go to Stonehenge where they find the Pandorica and also Rory as an Auton. A load of alien spaceships then appear above Stonehenge and the Doctor makes an amazing speech. He thinks he's led the aliens off, but then all of a sudden they all teleport down to them. It's then realised that all these alien races are working with each other to put the Doctor inside the Pandorica because they believe he will destroy the universe. This part ends on the Doctor being locked inside the Pandorica and Amy dead after Rory accidentally shot her. It's such a thrilling episode with some awesome moments. I love when the Doctor realises Rory is alive, and his speech is one of the best in the show's history. This is a great part to an amazing series finale. Number 1. The 11th Hour. It's the 11th Doctor's first episode that takes the cake in Series 5. This shows the Doctor straight after regenerating and does a great job of introducing us to this more wacky and silly incarnation. I wasn't so sure about Matt Smith when I first saw this episode, but I think I was just sad about David Tennant leaving. However, now I think he plays the Doctor very well and in his own unique way. We're also introduced to Amy Pond in this episode, and I think she also gets a great introduction. Rory is also introduced here, but he wouldn't become a main companion until later in the series. This episode also started the series arc of the Crack in Time, which I think is an interesting concept. The main villain of this story isn't the most memorable, but to be honest, the story is supposed to be focused on getting to know this new Doctor more than anything. I do however like the part where the Doctor faces the Atraxi and we see all his incarnations. This is when I knew that Matt Smith was the Doctor. All up, this was a great start to a very strong series. Well, there we have it. That was my ranking for the Series 5 episodes. This was a great series and definitely Matt Smith's best. I'd love to know how you would rank the episodes in this series, so please tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.